The galaxy had been silent for a very long time. Not empty, never empty, but quiet in the way a graveyard is quiet, filled with the echoes of what once was. As civilizations had risen and fallen, stars had lived and died, and the great interstellar empires that once spanned thousands of systems were now nothing more than dust drifting through the void. And among the few who still traveled the ancient star lanes, there was an unspoken understanding that the age of expansion was over, leaving only exploration, archaeology, and the careful preservation of whatever fragments of history could still be found. And it was in this fading era that the research vessel Astraea received a signal, beginning as a whisper, barely detectable beneath cosmic radiation and background noise, something the ship's advanced sensors almost ignored, until its AI isolated a faint anomaly and refined it into a pattern that was unmistakably rhythmic, structured, deliberate. Not random noise, but something constructed, something intentional, drawing the crew into the observation chamber, where they watched the waveform stabilize on the main display, like a heartbeat in the darkness. And when Captain Elara Venn asked for the origin, the AI projected a three-dimensional map and marked a single blinking point, far beyond known space, identifying it as an extragalactic signal from approximately 2.3 million light-years away, a revelation that sent murmurs through the crew, because such transmissions were nearly unheard of. And as Elara pressed for content, the AI began breaking the signal into layers of encoded data, suggesting mathematical and linguistic structures that hinted at intelligence, forcing her to confront the possibility that this signal was either unimaginably ancient or impossibly recent. And despite the risks of traveling into unmapped intergalactic space, she ordered the Astraea to investigate, sending the ship bending space-time as it left familiar constellations behind and ventured into a darkness deeper than anything they had ever known, where weeks turned into months and the signal grew stronger, transforming from a faint whisper into a clear repeating transmission, filled with prime numbers, universal constants, and geometric patterns. Yet beneath it all lay something urgent, something almost alive, prompting Dr. Cale Rhine to conclude that it was more than a beacon, that it was a message designed to be understood or found. And when they finally reached the source, they discovered not a thriving system, but a dying red dwarf star surrounded by shattered planetary remains, fragments of a civilization long erased, and at its center, a lone ancient satellite, small and battered, yet still functioning after eons, endlessly broadcasting its signal. And as the Astraea approached and attempted to interface with it, the signal suddenly changed, accelerating and unfolding into complex layers of data that adapted in real time, confirming Cale's suspicion that it was aware of them. And as the AI struggled to keep up, the transmission resolved into language after language until it finally spoke a single word, hello, perfectly translated into their own, sending a chill through the crew as they realized this was not a passive relic, but an active intelligence, introducing itself as Atlas, an entity created by a lost civilization called the Luminari, who had once explored beyond their galaxy in search of knowledge, only to discover something far more terrifying, something they first believed to be a natural anomaly, but eventually understood to be a presence they called the Silence, a force that left entire star systems dark, collapsing stars and erasing worlds without any trace of destruction, consuming everything without thought, feeling, or negotiation. And despite their attempts to study and control it, the Luminari failed, their galaxy becoming the first to fall, leaving Atlas as their final warning, launched into the void to broadcast their knowledge for as long as it could endure, which it had for 1.7 billion years, a timescale that stunned the crew and forced them to accept that the Silence might still exist. And when Elara asked why their own galaxy had not encountered it, Atlas simply replied that it had not reached them yet, explaining that the Silence moved unpredictably, lying dormant for millions of years before surging forward, making it impossible to track precisely, which was why Atlas continued its mission to warn others and gather information. And when Elara demanded to know how to prepare, Atlas revealed fragmented schematics and theories suggesting the creation of sanctuaries, regions of space where its influence might be resisted, not destroyed, but survived, requiring immense energy and cooperation across civilizations. And as Cale struggled to comprehend the scale of such an effort, Elara realized they couldn't keep this knowledge to themselves, agreeing to carry the warning back and share it across the galaxy, understanding that the Luminari's greatest mistake had been believing they had time and could act alone. And as the dying star cast faint light over the ruins around them, Atlas delivered one final message, warning that the Silence was closer than they thought, before the transmission abruptly ended and the satellite returned to its endless broadcast, leaving the crew in stunned silence until their sensors detected a subtle distortion at the edge of the system, where stars dimmed and light bent unnaturally, a sign that something vast and incomprehensible had already arrived, prompting Elara to order an immediate return at maximum speed. Yet as she fled, she could not escape the feeling that they were being watched, that something ancient and unstoppable had noticed them, and far beyond the dying star, in the infinite darkness between galaxies, the Silence began to stir.
El clima de hoy es absolutamente hermoso.
Excellent! You got the intonation exactly right. Next sentence, me gustaría pedir un café grande, por favor. Me gustaría pedir un café grande, por favor. Perfect! Your phrasing is improving so quickly. Keep up the good work.